There are 4 things that are required in the federal resume. 1 is the date of employment, hours per week in that job. 3 is the salary. And 4th, I would say, is addressing every single qualification and requirements of the job that you are applying for.
Welcome to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How, the podcast for cleared professionals looking for new opportunities and career advice. We go behind the scenes with recruiters and hiring managers from leading cleared employers to uncover the information you need to make a smart career move. Get ready for insights from this week's guest and your hosts, Kathleen Smith and Rachel Bozeman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Kathleen with ClearedJobs.Net. We thank you so much for all of the listening that everyone's been doing, all the learning, all the fun that we've been having over these several years now of our podcast. Rachel, how are you doing today?
So good. I don't know if I can compete with all of that excitement that you just showed, but ditto to all of it. And I am equally delighted to be here today. So Kathleen, without further ado, who the heck is joining us today?
Well, today we have a really special guest. We have Michelle Eveleigh, Talent Acquisition and Outreach Lead of Washington Headquarters Services. Michelle, welcome to the show today.
Hello, Kathleen and Rachel. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, we are so excited that you are here, Michelle, and we like a good origin story. So we want to understand a little bit about your background, all of the twists and turns that caused you to join the government as a mid-career professional.
All right. Well, so prior to my government service, I was a government contractor for many years. I worked for Deloitte and RGS, where I served as leader development specialist and also human capital strategist for DHS, Capstone Leadership Program, and for Naval Sea Systems Command for their Commander's Executive Fellows Program. So my background really is human capital management. I love people. I love talent management. I love recruiting for the government. The mission-driven piece of it is what really inspires me. So essentially, coming from my personal experience, if I'm going to be working 8, 10, or how many hours a day, I want it to make a difference. I want to make an impact. And I hope that I'm also able to recruit individuals who want to make a difference and work for the United States and our mission.
You said it perfectly, because this is one of the reasons why I've been in the community for over 25 years. It's supporting the mission. So one thing that I love is having you on our podcast, because I don't think a lot of people know what the Washington Headquarters Services, or WHS, does. So what do you do and who do you support?
Yes. So I would say ditto to that. When I first heard of Washington Headquarters Services as an applicant, I said, who? But then I looked into it, and really, truly, WHS is the best kept secret in DoD. We essentially provide support, and we are the service provider for human resources, recruiting, resource management, contracting, acquisition, EEO, facilities, transportation, senior executive management. So we support over 27 organizations within the Pentagon and defense agencies, the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Comptroller, CIO, Pentagon Force Police Protection Agency, DPAA, CAPE, DODOGC, CDAO, our WHS Directorate, just to name a few. So all of these organizations, when we do recruiting for them, we look for talent for them, it runs the gamut from GS5 to 15. So our portfolio is large, even though our organization is not that big in comparison to other DoD agencies out there. But our mission essentially is to support the Pentagon and the Pentagon Reservation.
Well, Michelle, bad news. The secret is out, and now people want to know how they can be employed there. So tell us a little bit about the types of security cleared positions, or maybe what are those job titles that you're generally hiring for?
We recruit for anthropologists. We recruit for budget analysts. We recruit for intel analysts, foreign affairs specialists, to structural engineers, to financial management analysts, to HR specialists, police officers, bomb techs. It really runs the gamut because the organizations we support, as I mentioned, over 26 organizations, and we serve all of that.
Oh my gosh, incredible. You can do just about anything, it sounds like. And where are these positions located?
I would say most of them are in the Washington, D.C. area. But for instance, the organization that we support, DPAA, they have their agencies in Hawaii. We also have positions across the United States. But I would say for the most part, it is in the D.C. area.
Michelle, as you and I know, Rachel doesn't have this challenge, but we have this challenge of commuting around the Washington, D.C. area. So are we talking Arlington? Are we talking Southwest? Are we talking Mark Center? Are we talking about all the various different centers throughout the Beltway?
So the Pentagon, and I would say the Pentagon reservation, is not just the Pentagon. So Mark Center is a Pentagon reservation. We have the Suffolk building. We have offices in Crystal City. We also have offices, depending on who we service and the organizations, they would recruit for positions in the West Coast. It really depends on the vacancy. So for instance, if we're looking for a security program analyst, that's in Guantanamo Bay. In terms of location as well, it's a lot.
So you're hiring for government positions, and sometimes getting hired as a federal employee to me sounds like this sort of big black box that I don't know how to look into it. So let's really deconstruct this for our listeners. Can you first explain the concept of merit systems principles in federal government hiring?
Yes, essentially, federal human resources is based on merit systems principle, which is a set of guidelines that ensure fair and equitable treatment for all employees and applicants in the federal government. And it ensures fair and open competition. We want to make sure that the applicants and employees are selected and advanced based on merit through fair and open competition.
Awesome. So then let's get to the next stage to untangle. Can you tell us the difference between direct hire authority versus competitive service versus accepted service? So it sounds like we have some different categories there. Can you explain for our listeners the different categories?
Yes, occupational series, which is essentially positions in government. They are classified through different series, and different series or different positions have direct hire authorities, meaning once the job is posted in the public for everyone to see and apply for fairly and equitably, they can be hired directly for that particular position and series. Now, not all series have direct hire authority. So for instance, in DoD, HR specialist, we have to compete for our positions, which is now we call them the competitive service. That means this type of series and positions must be on USAJOBS for applicants to apply for, and competitive service in that particular series. When that happens and it's open to the public, veterans can apply. And when veterans apply through that competitive process, they do get that preference. And accepted service, it works similar to direct hire authority, where they can, after the positions are posted in a public forum and platform, hiring managers can hire those applicants directly.
Well, thank you for untangling that, because I would still be in the ball of twine over there. So thank you.
No problem. And there's also non-competitive hiring authorities. For instance, professionals or people with disabilities can qualify through a direct hire authority, Schedule A. We also have, for our disabled veterans, non-competitive hiring authority. So that means that they can be hired directly.
Well, you heard it here first, friends. Michelle's definitely an expert when it comes to all things. And so I want to ask another question, if you don't mind, Michelle, about maybe what are some of the advantages or disadvantages of each of those pathways if I'm a security cleared professional, or maybe if I'm transitioning from the military?
I would look into what are your strengths as an applicant. You focus on that, and then you look for the mission that aligns with your strength and career trajectory. From there, the hiring path is really dictated by, I would say, OPM and DoD on the flexibility for those hiring authorities. So, for instance, if your path is really in HR, then you really have to just compete and apply through USAJOBS, right? And compete for that position. If your background is in IT, there is a direct hire authority for IT professionals. I would say really just kind of going back and looking, auditing from a competency and talent and also strength perspective where you want to be, because I would say government work is not for everyone. What we are looking for from a talent recruitment perspective is that we are looking for individuals who want to make a difference, who are mission driven, and we can't compete with professionals that are only solely looking for just the salary. And what we provide as an employer, we have great government benefits. We have pensions, we have great health insurance, we also have TSP, we have transportation subsidy, and based on different agencies, they also provide childcare subsidy. So looking at it from a total compensation package, not just based on salary, for the most part, the government is very competitive in that sense.
So I'm going to give you a chance to take it even further because I love what you're talking about there. So tell us, what are some of the additional advantages to what you just mentioned? Like if I was a defense contractor, why in the heck do I want to come work in the government space?
Well, as a formal government contractor myself, I love being a contractor. The projects I was able to work on, they were really exciting. However, contracts, it has a beginning and end, right? From that perspective, I always have to look for my next project, and sometimes you're on the bench. So the stability is not there. But for me, I love the stability of working on one or project and progressing it and seeing the fruits of my labor. And also the benefits is also good. As I mentioned earlier, I get to get a pension after I retire. And for what I do, I love meeting people and meeting where they are and matching them with an organization. So essentially, I'm kind of like a matchmaker. It's a win-win. An organization needs a talent to fulfill, their goals. And then I have, a candidate that is looking for that mission. And so I just made two parties happy. So I would say this is the happy part of HR where we can provide value to, the organization and the candidates looking for jobs.
I know you're speaking Rachel's language there.
Yes, you are.
So, Michelle, there's another sort of like mystery that goes on with applying for a federal job. So, when people are applying for a direct hire position or a job through USA Jobs, do they need to provide a private sector resume, or do they have to do something special and do something that what's called a federal resume?
So a federal resume is required. And what I would suggest for all applicants to have a USA Jobs account and use the resume builder. And the reason for that is that the resume builder in USA Jobs would automatically format it for you. And I would say there are 4 things that are required in the federal resume. One is the date of employment, hours per week in that job. 3 is the salary. And 4th, I would say, is addressing every single qualification and requirements of the job that you are applying for. And a federal resume can go up to 5 pages. I know that's a lot. However, if you look at the job announcement and address the requirements of that job line by line, then I would say easily 3 pages. I mean, my resume is 5 pages, and I actually really tried to be succinct with that. And so really carefully look at the job requirements. Federal HR It really is, I would say, as an HR specialist, our main job is compliance, right? There are a lot of qualification required per occupational series, per position, as designed by OPM based on merit systems principles. If the resume or if that applicant do not address how they qualify or meet the requirements, they will not make the cert, which is essentially you didn't make the cut. So you can be very qualified, but if you do not put that on paper, you're not going to make it through the process. So before any applicant meet a hiring manager, it goes through the HR specialist first, which is essentially, think of it, a compliance officer making sure that you qualify for that job.
Awesome. So you've given a lot of great advice, but I'm going to ask if you just have one last word of inspiration for anyone that is trying to land their next career through WHS.
I would say, I think 3 things. One is definitely have, USAJOBS account, use that resume builder, be very intentional on the resume and application package that you send through. Again, each resume and package, they're carefully reviewed by HR specialists, making sure that you qualify for the job, and then it goes through the hiring manager. 2, set alerts on USAJOBS for positions that you're interested in and organizations so that you can get those alerts when they have any openings. 3rd, follow Washington Headquarters Services on LinkedIn. We post vacancies on our LinkedIn page, and some of the positions might not even be on USAJOBS because we have a direct hire authority for those, and it is on our WHS LinkedIn page that we post it. Also, follow any defense agencies or organizations that you want to work for that is aligned with your career trajectory and your mission. Also go to DoD civilian careers. A lot of openings are also posted there. Some of them might be a duplicate from USAJOBS, but some are not. And the 5th one is DoD emerging technology. So for anyone who's in the STEM-related field at any grade level, also check out DoD emerging technologies.
We talk about last word of inspiration on someone getting a job through WHS. What about internships, fellowships? What are some of the other really creative programs that you hire for?
Yes, some of the fellowships and internships that we manage include the McCain's Fellows Program, the Presidential Management Fellows Program, Pathways Program. We also have a volunteer student internship program for seniors in high school to get into government and intern for a few months. So this is not paid, but all the other ones that I mentioned, PMF, McCain, and Pathways, those are all paid. Those are competitive programs, and that would be a great way to get into DoD, learn about the organization, and find your career within DoD.
You have shared an amazing amount of information and deconstructed a lot of things that I know confuse people. How in the world can our listeners get in touch with you and your team?
You can email us at whs.ostcareers@mail.mil. You can email us your resume, or you can also join our talent community by going to whs.mil, going to careers, and then on that link, just click the join our talent community, upload your resume, and if there's any openings, we actually go into our talent pool so that we can get your information, and if there's any match at any point, then we'll reach out to you.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all of your time and all of your expertise in explaining some of the different things that are available working for the federal government and the different things on how to apply for a job for the federal government. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
So you all get to listen to just me because Rachel is a very busy woman and had to drop off for another call. So I really loved Michelle's breaking down the federal government hiring process. And I think it's really interesting that people see the sort of hurdles that they will think of to federal hiring or applying for a federal job, and they won't apply when there is so much opportunity and so many benefits there. So really take her advice of looking at USA Jobs and looking at the resume builder. I think she also had a really great advice at understanding the differences between being a government employee and being a private sector employee. I mean, there are different benefits that we all get to enjoy. But I was really impressed with just the breadth. I mean, 27 different agencies that the Washington headquarters services hires for and recruits for. So lots of opportunity there. And what's interesting is there's lots of opportunity when you listen to the podcast. I found a statistic that said the people who listen all the way to the end are the smartest and the brightest and the most beautiful and the shiniest people out there. So if you're one of those few that are down here listening to the end of the podcast, would you please follow the show and maybe tell somebody else about it or review us? But for now, take care, and I look forward to sharing more news with you at a later date. Bye-bye.